everyone. Happy Monday. I hope it's been an awesome day for you. I'm excited to have this conversation because I have heard many boot campers, and not just in the boot camp, but just within our profession, get really frustrated with conversations and posts and whatnot about how excited everyone is to take this experimental shot. And so I invited my good friend, Dr. Brian, to join me today to help all of you. So Brian, thanks so much for joining me.
Sure, great to be here, as always, with the illustrious Dr. Barbara Keaton.
There we go.
Yeah, just an Alaskan.
That's right. So Brian, so my first rule when I was in practice and having these conversations with whether friends or family members is always ask questions first. So that's like my first rule. What's your first rule that you focus on in these difficult and challenging conversations?
I would say for me, it's not coming out of the gate and telling a patient or a practice member that they were wrong for a decision that they've either already made, so I'm not going to change anything, or that they're thinking of making. So, and to a degree, that's going to include, well, let me ask you some questions. Not you, but you, Mr. and Mrs. Patient, Mr. and Mrs. Practice Member. So, what we don't want, I mean, it's no different than when they come into the office. If they've been to a chiropractor who's done things differently, I don't want to make them feel wrong, differently than the way I do it. I don't want to make them feel wrong for choosing that style of chiropractic. And I'm not saying mine's better or worse. It's just, I don't want the patient, I'm not telling you, patient, that you're wrong. But if you want to have a conversation, but that's what it's going to be. And for me, doctor means to teach. And so I go into teaching mode, and I try to teach somewhat Socratically as it is, because as you navigate the thought process, I think the truth comes out. And so that would be my big thing is while I'm wanting to probe and ask questions to see where they're getting at, because if a patient says, hey, what do you think about the vaccines? Well, I have no idea what side of the camp that they're from. And depending on my answer, I could make somebody really, really mad about something before it's really necessary to do so. At the end of the day, if they don't like what I'm going to say, then they don't like what I'm going to say, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But what I try to do is probe a little bit just to see where they're coming from, because you don't know. Like with everything that deals with our practice members, we don't know the journey that they're on or the journey they've been on until we sit down and make a relationship with them.
I love that question. And I can even hear it in your voice when someone asks us, what do you think about the big V word, right? Number one, I would also encourage everyone, think the best of them. Maybe they're asking you because they trust you and they really want your opinion. And maybe you're the only one out of all of their friends, all of their coworkers, all of the people they know that actually align with their thinking. Mm-hmm. So maybe they're looking to you for answers. Maybe they're looking to you for support. Maybe they're looking to you to feel like, man, does anyone else get me? So I would encourage you, when you get that question, it's really easy to get the hair up on the back of our neck and then immediately to get defensive. But I just invite you all to just slow your roll. The nature of mind is clear. I was just listening to an awesome book by Michael Neal, and he says this, which I find so interesting. He said, would you ever try to heal your own cut? We wouldn't, right? We cut ourselves and then we just know innate intelligence is going to take care of it. Well, the nature of mind, if we'll just settle and stop the clutter, we'll do the exact same thing. The answers will occur to us. It was so exciting today. I was talking to one of my private coaching clients, and she's like, the coolest thing about us coaching together is I no longer feel like I have to make decisions. I just know. Yeah. It just occurs to me, life is so clear. It just occurs to me what I'm supposed to do. And so I invite all of you to be proud of yourselves that your practice members are asking you. They're asking you because they trust you. They're asking you because they really and truly want to have your feedback. And then, so then Brian, from there, how do you take it? Like I ask you, hey, Dr. Brian, what do you think about the vaccine?
Well, I would argue my first job, it always helps to prepare. So it's what are the big questions? I mean, and how do I want to say it? No, it's not a chiropractic issue, but it does deal with our patients. And so they are going to ask about it because they do see us as a trusted advisor. And that's no different than the COVID and the masking and you name it, whatever's happened the last. So number one is I've got to have at least a little bit of foresight to say, you know what? Somebody might ask me about this. If they ask me about this, I have a choice. I can say that's not chiropractic and I'm not going to talk about it. I mean, I'm just here to check your spine. And I would argue that's okay. But if you really want to get into it, then to doctor means to teach. So I've got to do some research first. So let me go see, is my opinion just purely grounded on emotion? Just screw those guys. I'm not going to do anything they do. Right. So I've got to say, all right, if this is my position, why is it my position? Because if I'm a patient, I'm going to ask. So if they say, all right, what do you think about these vaccines? Well, I'm not going to take them. The next question they're going to say is why? So I need to have an answer. That answer could be technical. Maybe I don't like the ingredients. Maybe I don't like this. Maybe I don't like that. Maybe I don't like that they can't get sued. Maybe I don't like that it hasn't been tested, that they've gotten emergency dispensation for it. Maybe I don't like those things. And so I can say that. I can certainly have the philosophical thing because this is what I believe that the body's meant to do. I can certainly say that, 99 point whatever % of people that did get COVID survived and thrived. So, that these things are only 90 or 95% effective, depending on the one you got. So it's for me, it's just having, it's really no different than why should you go to the chiropractor? I'm well trained to tell them why to go to the chiropractor because I did 3.5 years of preparing for it. And then it's all the discussions I've had in the 15 years or so since. So it makes me pretty good at it right now, but it's really no different than if there's an issue, we need to be, I don't like to read the news too much because it just makes me not happy as far as anything. But I love that when you say that a lot, be interested more than I'm interesting. And I need to just hear what they're saying. And I would agree wholeheartedly with what you say, is that people are looking for someone to go on a journey with. They might, at the end of the day, decide to get the shot, and that's none of my business. But they are looking for somebody to give them some information. If they're asking you for a reason. Could they be asking you, like, what are you going to do? Oh, you're not going to do it. And their mind was already made up to walk out the door. Yeah. And guess what? They would have walked out the door for something else anyway. So nice to see you and see you later. So I think probably primarily number one is I just need to be prepared for it. And I might ask simply, why do you ask? And to see where they're coming from. Well, this is how I feel about it. I mean, my father-in-law came in and he asked about it. I don't know if they've had it or not. I just haven't had the conversation with them. And I said, no. And I said, I'm not going to take it. And here's why. I said, it's experimental. At the time when he had asked the question, one that was out was 90% effective. The other one was 95% effective. So I said, I trust my immune system, which is by the numbers given out of the amount of people that had it and the amount of people that died, it's 99.7% effective. And I'm okay with those odds. Could something happen to me? Yeah, it could be. I could get hit by a bus walking across the street this afternoon too. So I'm just not going to, I choose not to live that particular way. And I try to educate my patients on why I do or do not do something versus telling them what they should do or do not.
Yeah.
And I think that, and that can be delicate at times, which comes just what you say. When you ask a lot of questions, well, what about this? What about this? What about, have you thought about this? Did you know about this? that type of stuff. So, I mean, typically, be it the V word or whatever it is, because a topic is a topic. How we handle the conversation, there's lots of delicate things to talk about chiropractically. I mean, yeah, somebody might bring up circumcision. Somebody's going to bring up breastfeeding. Somebody's going to bring up natural childbirth. Somebody's going to bring up C-section. Somebody's going to bring up, you name it. And the mechanism, if you will, of getting through that conversation is really no different. I need to be well informed, at least as far as I can tell. And you know what? If I say, what about this? And the patient says, what about this? And I hadn't heard that, I should have the integrity to say, you know what? That's an interesting point. I haven't heard it. Let me look into it, and then we can continue the discussion later.
Yeah.
And so that would be how I typically, if there's something, I would argue non-chiropractic is, if it's chiropractic, it's really not a delicate situation. I feel super comfortable, even if it's not good news that I have to tell somebody they got to come in for the next 6 months, 3 times a week because their spine is a pretzel. I don't have a problem having that conversation. If I don't have a problem saying if they owe me $10,000, they owe me $10,000. Mm-hmm. So that's not uncomfortable for me because it's within my wheelhouse. So this stuff to me is extra, but it does, as a trusted advisor, I think it behooves me to have some knowledge about the situation. So should it come up, I can say, this is why I do or don't do something. And, well, what do you think I should do, Doc? I can't tell them what to do in that case.
Yeah.
I'm breaking a law, I think, at that point.
Yeah.
So I can't tell them to take or not take something that's medical because now I'm practicing medicine without a license. So, but what I can do is say, well, ask these questions. And I would tell them, and I said, then you're going to have to make a decision for yourself.
Yeah.
I will tell them, listen, if you choose to take and have the vaccine, know that is a universal force or a stressor on your body that your body has to adapt to, and your body will best adapt to it with a nervous system free of interference. And that's what I do here. So if you're going to go, then be sure that you get checked right before you get checked right afterwards. Right. And then if you choose not to do it, well, that's great, but you still have to deal with the world around you. And let's give that immune system the best chance it can to operate. And it's going to do that with a nervous system free of the interference of subluxation.
You know, I would be really curious to be able to have a conversation, and I would always start with whiteboard, like pre-2020, what disease, because COVID isn't a disease, so what health challenge were we as a world most concerned about?
What, pre-COVID?
Yeah, pre-COVID.
I don't know. What, cancer? Heart disease?
I assume so, right? And so were we all like in it together to beat this thing that has claimed way more lives than COVID? And what did we do in order to reduce our risk? Like, it's really curious how, in my opinion, MSM, driven by Big Pharma, has done such a magnificent job teaching people, like, it's a magic bullet. Like, you can be overweight. You don't have to stop any other unhealthy practices or adopt any new practices except glove up, double, triple, I don't know how many masks anymore you're supposed to have. Stay far, far away. Like, those were never the things that led to health before. Right. And so it's, I invite everyone to look at, how has MSM done this? How have they done it? And what then are people gravitating to that we can look at as not things to maybe adopt ourselves, because like using fear, like, no, thank you. That's not attractive to me whatsoever. But what's happening, it's really showing how individuals, despite their knowing, are willing to operate in so much fear, because I don't believe that anyone's innate intelligence, no one's innate intelligence buys that this is the way to be healthy. We're all given the same operating system, right? We're all given the same amount of time, 1,440 minutes a day. I don't buy that. So what's happened is they've just cluttered everyone's thinking, and thinking creates our feeling, and keeping them in that state of hysteria. So what is it for us to see then, that in order for us to be connected to innate ourselves, there has to be calm?
Right.
Hence the power of the chiropractic adjustment. So what if we flip the conversation?
Mm-hmm.
What if it wasn't a state of hysteria? Like, go back to 2019, what health habits were they committed to?
Well, I mean, arguably, I'm going to say not a whole lot, because we have most of the things that are killing people are lifestyle habit type situations. If you don't do this, you end up with diabetes. You don't do this, or you do this, you end up with cardiovascular disease. Same thing with a lot of the cancers. That's the interesting thing is, listen, everybody, we've all been told to eat right and exercise at some point. And that's true, right?
Mhm.
But for some reason, we don't do it. We don't promote it, or we make it difficult to do it, right? So as far as you should eat right, well, you know what? Why should I buy a salad for $7 when I can buy 3 Big Macs for 6? And so that's kind of where we are. I mean, it's just sort of all sorts of work. The way that they did it, they got everything so confused. Everybody's so confused, that when now all they have to do is inject a little bit of fear, and then people immediately, well, what's going to make me safe? And we did. We ran to mom and dad, right, to make us safe often when we're kids, and that's what we're looking for, I think, as adults. I mean, I get it. I mean, just sometimes it just seems, yeah. I mean, it's blue pill, red pill kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right? It's that scene in the Matrix when he's sitting there. He goes, you know, I just, I just want to be, have it nice. I know I should. I'm not tasting this steak that it's not here. All I want to do is just eat the steak and just don't worry about it. And I think for a long time, I mean, almost as long as humans have been around, is we've looked for we've defined uncomfortable as being bad. And so if you're uncomfortable, that's bad. So I don't want to be uncomfortable.
Mhm.
So we look for what makes us comfort. And so some people, you get alcohol, you got sex, you got drugs, you got some people overwork. So we don't like to be comfortable because we like that numbing thing to where, all right, now that well, no, you're not well, you're just not thinking about it, and it's going to come back.
Right.
That's what, for me, chiropractic has helped me to where I can handle I don't like being uncomfortable any more than the next person. I like when things are just nice and groovy. But when I'm adjusted and I'm connected to myself, coming from inside out, then when stuff comes my way, it just seems like I get through the situation better. You can't stop stressful situations. You can't stop it. Even if it's good stress, it's still stress that your body has to adapt to. Going to a wedding is a happy event, or go and watch your favorite band play. It should be a happy event, but you still have to absorb that and assimilate what you're going to use, eliminate what you're not going to use, and adapt in the middle of all that. And so, I mean, for me, that's what chiropractic gives us. And then, I mean, that's principle 32, right? Coordination, all the cells working to fulfill their offices and purposes. That's what we're not as a society. We're not coordinated at all. And now that's why you look at most every election these days, depending on your side of choice, it's 51-49. So they did a really good job of just making it even. And every little leadership course I said, if you're like on a board or you're trying to get a vote, you never want it to be 51-49, because you got half the people that are just flat unhappy. Right. So if you're on a board and trying to get something done, you want that unanimous vote.
Right.
But in order to do that, right, you got to take a stand as far as that's concerned. And then there we go. And I don't know if I rambled there a little bit, but that's where I think, I mean, that's where chiropractics just helped me so tremendously to say, you know what, it's okay for me to be uncomfortable. It's okay for me to be sad. It's okay for me to be angry. And what chiropractic has done for me, because my nervous system is working better, is I can get through those moments better. So that when you do get through it, guess what? You're like, wow, I got through it. And now I'm stronger than I was than before I started it.
And I think it's so critical to to remember that we live in our thinking, we don't live in our reality, right? That thinking creates our reality, and our feelings are simply a sign to let us know where our train of thought is taking us. So if there's thinking that makes you sad, if there's thinking that makes you angry, we have full control over deciding how long we want to experience that
Right.
feeling. It doesn't have to go on forever.
Sure.
Something I'm going to talk about at New Beginnings is that it's it's like a gate at the airport. A thought is the gate, the airplane is the thinking, and the feeling is letting you know, like, this is where it's going. Like, do you want to go there?
Mm.
And it's not about suppressing our feelings, it's just being aware and understanding what is mind, what is the nature of thought. And as you know, it's so interesting as chiropractors that we tell individuals it's not about how you feel, it's about how you function.
Hmm.
Right? Like every chiropractor pretty much that I know is all about, it's about how you're functioning, not how you're feeling. And yet we get ourselves all caught up in feeling because we don't understand as chiropractors and humans in general, I think mind, thought, consciousness, and that thought comes from mind, and that mind, when it's quiet, it's going to govern us just like healing and innate intelligence does in the body. So I just that really and truly being curious, not only with others but with ourselves too. Like, interesting. I'm wonder why I think that way. And
Right.
there are even chiropractors who are getting the shot, which I mean, honestly does blow my mind, but
Yeah.
that is a reflection of their thinking. Like,
Yeah. And
that's
that's their
where it is.
choice. I mean, it's, yeah. I mean, I mean, I guess you got to see what comes down the rule or what comes down the way. But yeah, as of right now, I'm choosing not to do it. That doesn't mean I'm against it. You want to do it, do it. I'm saying I'm choosing not to do it, as far as that concerned, because I think there are real concerns. Um, but that's just my thought, and somebody's going to have a very different thought process, and okay, I mean, that's where their life experiences have taken them. And um, I, I think I
It's
think the problem that we have these days is when we have differing opinions. If I have a differing opinion from you, that means you're wrong, or that means to you that I'm wrong.
right,
Whereas, quite frankly, from our worldview, paradigm, our life experiences, we both could be right. Doesn't mean we can't change later. But
right.
if we would actually treat people that way, that, I mean, it's like being a Yankee or a Red Sox fan. Well, which one do you want to be? The one side says the other one's terrible. The other side says the other one's terrible. Well, which one's terrible? I mean, we know it's the Red Sox, but you know what I'm saying with that example. And
Right.
I think that's a pretty classic idea that when uh, we've learned, I think we've learned not to have civil discourse these days. This is where maybe doing like debate. Well, I mean, now, like, that's not a debate or a conversation. It goes right to argument.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and, and and that's a very hard thing because for some reason we're so wrapped up that our thought. I mean, our thoughts are really the only things that are truly ours. And so when we're looking for validation of ourselves, sometimes that's all we have to turn to.
Yeah.
That it's that thought, and I have to cling to this because this is something I've carried with me. Which, if I change my mind now that I'm 40 instead of when I was 20, then boy, that's like admitting I was wrong all those years. I mean, my daughter, I don't know the last time she's had a shot of anything, but she had the full round of shots when she was born. We weren't in chiropractic then. I don't feel guilty at all that we chose that avenue because for what my wife and I knew, uh,
Right.
we did the thing that we thought was right for our kids. And so I don't feel any guilt about that stuff. Might it have led to some of her issues? Maybe. I don't know. At the end of the day, she's still functioning pretty doggone good. Um, she didn't get adjusted till she was 7. And so, I mean, I think the biggest issue we got chiropractors, we get a lot of hung up on these issues and have the conversations you got to have. But Jiminy Christmas, talk about what chiropractic does for people, because how many times does somebody say during that new patient orientation, during that report of findings, why didn't anybody ever tell me this?
Right.
And so that's the issue I have, because I look at people like my mother looked at the palpation tables at Sherman College when I was in school, and she says, well, those tables are really low. Well, what do you know about going to the chiropractor? Because as far as I had known, she'd never gone. I said, well, your grandmother, my grandmother is very allopathic, was a dental hygienist, worked at a orthopedic surgeon's office. So that was her background. But she took my mother, and my mom said, well, I had terrible allergies when I was a kid. I said, well, did it help? She goes, yeah. I said, well, I'm curious then. When I was in third grade, why did you have me get 10 shots in each arm instead of taking me to the chiropractor? Right. And I never really got an answer. And my thought there was, where was the failure in the system? Was it my mother who forgot what she had done when she was a kid? Was it my grandmother that didn't continue to take it to the chiropractor? Or was it the chiropractor that didn't tell the story well enough? And I'm not indicting any of them. I don't know where the breakdown was as far as that particular story. So that's my thing. I mean, if somebody takes the shot, chiropractic is for you. If somebody doesn't take the shot, chiropractic is for you.
Yeah.
That's why I had an epiphany, Barb. Epiphany was a big word for me. The light bulb went off. But I had an epiphany this weekend as I was talking to the Garden State Chiropractic Society, because we hear about broad scope, narrow scope chiropractic, right? Broad scope is, I'm going to add all these other things. But here's the thing. You add all those other things because a lot of times those people are taking care of musculoskeletal issues, and that's it. Whereas chiropractically, I do the one thing, I check and adjust the spine. And by doing that, no matter what situation anybody else is in, they're better off with a nervous system free of subluxation. So I would argue vertebral subluxation chiropractic is the much broader scope. That was my epiphany, to use another big word with several syllables.
Wow, yeah. It's the umbrella.
Right, because it's like, well, are you a sports chiropractor? Yeah. Are you a pediatric chiropractor? Yeah. Are you a senior chiropractor? Yeah. I'm a chiropractor. I mean, I'll see you got a spine, I'll look at it. And knowing that whatever you choose to do after having that nervous system checked, if there's something for me to do and I do it, you're going to live a better life because of it.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, cool. This was a fun discussion. We said we were going to go 10 to 15 minutes, and shocker of all shockers, we doubled that as normal. I
would just like to say, with Dr. Barbara Eaton's boot camp, you get bonus minutes almost every
bonus
time.
Minutes. Yes.
It's always it's like dog minutes. 1 minute in the boot camp is like 7 minutes outside the boot camp.
Yes, I agree with that. Over deliver just because that's the standard. I mean, that's chiropractic.
Right.
Always over delivering. So thanks to all of you. We're curious about your viewpoint. So feel free to pop a comment in the comment section. We invite all comments, so bring them on. And Dr. Brian, thanks so much for joining me. To all of you, have a wonderful evening. Remember to tell those around you that you love them, that you appreciate them, and accept their wonderfulness right back to you. So see ya. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.